dare you. I dare you to change the world. Yeah, you. Getting that college education.
I dare you to be somebody important.
Like be a teacher or a reality TV star.
I dare you to stand up here.
To call the shots.
To be a role model.
An inspiration.
An innovator.
To be a teacher.
Think you can change my life?
Make me excited about science like you.
Have a career that really means something?
Then do it.
I dare you.
Good morning. My name is Reverend Cassandra Bledsoe. I have the privilege of serving as the community liaison to Chief Calvin Williams for the Division of Police for the City of Cleveland. I am also chair for Women's History Month, and this Women's History Month for Public Safety was the idea of Carolyn Williams, who was at that time president of Noble Greater Cleveland Chapter. So I'm just excited to extend a welcome to you on her behalf, and we will have someone speaking. But it was Carolyn who came to the City of Cleveland some years ago and said she'd like to do something for women in law enforcement. Director Michael McGrath said, let's expand it to all women in public safety, and I was blessed to chair the entire event. So this is one of many events for the City of Cleveland, and we are pleased today to have the kickoff for Women's History Month be this program. So welcome, welcome, welcome. We will begin with our opening prayer from Sister Karen Somerville. She is the principal of St. Francis School. May we all stand.
Let's remember that when we're gathered, 2 or 3, the Lord is here in our midst. Good and gracious God, we thank you for bringing us here today. Please be with our women in public safety who bravely serve our community every single day. We ask that you cover them with your protection, that you be their guiding force and lead their way. We ask that you draw them to yourself amidst the dangers they face, for you are the truth, you are the way, you are their light and their life. When the voices of hate rise against them, we ask you to silence it. When the plans of the enemy rise up to cause them to stumble, we ask you to guide their steps. Lord, we know how powerful you are. We ask that you be the wind beneath their wings, the power behind their efforts, and the heart behind their service. We thank you, Lord, that we no longer live in a world where leadership is viewed as masculine behavior. We thank you for the precious gifts these women bring to their work, their sensitivity, their intuition, their listening hearts and loving compassion. We thank you for their skills in building relationships and their incredible ability to handle tensions and complexities. We know, Lord, that women by nature are givers and nurturers. We thank you for the beautiful way that they give of themselves for the good of others. We are so blessed to have them in our workplaces. Lord, bless all our safety workers who serve our cities, our nation, and our people. Bless their families and those they love. Give them your great favor this day, every day. May they trust in your provident and loving care for them. Bless us all today as we join to celebrate women in public safety. In your most holy name, we pray. Amen. I just asked if I could introduce myself a little. I am Sister Karen Somerville, and it's a pleasure to be with you today. I grew up in Cleveland on the far west side, Cam's Corner to be exact. It was back in the day when there was a residency requirement for city workers, and half the owners in my neighborhood were either police officers or firefighters. Now, that was back in 1945, 50. We could rightfully say policemen and police firemen. I'm a sister of Notre Dame and an educator. I served in schools in the suburbs until 1993, and it was that time I was given the opportunity to move back into Cleveland, and so I did gladly. I moved to St. Francis School over on the corner of 71st and Superior, where I served as principal for 22 years. 2 years ago, when I turned 70, I retired. It's time to let the millennials take over. I continue to live there, though, in the convent and serve in the school. And I just want to say I've been served by your agencies all through my youth and for the past 24 years. And for this, I want to say thank you. I've reached out to you in my time of need, and I have never been disappointed. The president of the World Vision U.S. organization, Richard Stern, wrote this: "In my opinion, the most significant thing that can be done to cure extreme poverty in our world is to protect, educate, and nurture girls and women, providing them with equal rights and opportunities." Today we gather in celebration of Women's History Month to salute our Cleveland women in public safety, women who believed they could, and they did. Thank you for this opportunity to be with you today.
Thank you so very much, Sister Somerville. Now we will have opening remarks from Director Michael McGrath from the Department of Public Safety, City of Cleveland.
Good morning, everyone. It's great to see everyone here today and all the chairs filled. You can't hear me? I will. How's this? Is that better? So I'm not screaming at you, I'm just trying to carry my voice out to you. Welcome, thanks for being here. It's great to see all the chairs filled today and everybody attending this very important get-together. From the Department of Public Safety, I'd like to express my thanks to all the ladies in public service today, and I want you all to know that you're so much appreciated across all levels of public safety. A quick trivia question. Does anybody know how old this room is? I'll tell you. This room was 100 years old in 1916. So we're going to have our 102nd birthday on July 4th, because that's when it opened. July 4th, 1916. Next question, another trivia question. First lady in law enforcement, what year? 1910. So the ladies in law enforcement, you've been around longer than this particular building, which is going to be 102 years old. And with that, I say congratulations. Now, I know when the ladies in law enforcement first started, they had their own separate bureau, and they only dealt with ladies and children, et cetera, et cetera. And it went like that for a long time. Then it wasn't until, I believe it was after World War II, in the 1950s and 60s, where females started getting more involved in law enforcement. Rightfully so, because they do bring a presence, a calming to that particular service that's provided by law enforcement agencies across this country. And it went like that for a while. And then it was in 1972 when they expanded, I believe it was Title VII of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. And when I mean expanded, they expanded to public agencies, which allowed public agencies to, and I don't want to say force them to it, but take into consideration females relative to recruiting, promotions, moving up in the organizational structure. That was in 1972. I came on the police department in 1973, and I had several females in my academy class, and I've had an opportunity to work with females in law enforcement. I can't speak of the other public service agencies, but from 1973 all the way till today, and my anniversary is April 1st, and I'll have 45 years. And I'd just like to say this, that during my tenure, and I think I stated this once or twice at previous get-togethers, some of my finest partners in both zone cars and in the bureaus were my female companions, my female partners. Not that they were faster than males or stronger than males, but they did bring a sense to law enforcement of engaging folks that brought a calming effect. And I also found that when it came to dependability, if I was riding around in a zone car late at night and I might have got out of the car and chased somebody over fences and fences, my partner might not have been able to keep up with me, but I do know that when it was all said and done and we were rolling on the ground, that particular partner was with me, and I'll always be grateful. Now, in closing, I would like all the female police officers to stand up, please. And I would just like to say thank you personally from the bottom of my heart for everything that you do, continue to do, and have done over the years. And now I'm going to, if you'd sit down, I'm not giving orders, I'm just asking. Those females from emergency medical services, if you could stand up, if there's anybody here today. EMS? No EMS. And lastly, those females that are firefighters, if you would stand up. And I see 3 female firefighters. Anybody else? That's all? 3. Well, thank you for your service. And where I was going with this, is that I knew we would see a lot of females from the police department, and I thought I'd see more from EMS, but we just moved up to 25 ambulances, so they're all probably running around. And then I was going to get to the fire department, and I knew I'd see 3 ladies, and it was more of a recruitment thing to tell y'all, hey, listen, we need a little help because we need more females in the Cleveland Division of Fire, in our urban centers. And one other topic I'd just like to touch on. When I first started in law enforcement, the only voices you heard on the air were male voices from communications. And then it was about 1975 or 76, at least where I was working, and at the time I started in the city of East Cleveland, that's when we first started hiring female dispatchers. And what a change that was. And I mean for the good, because when the ladies started answering the phones and dispatching the cars, and I don't mean any disrespect to the males, but they were just so far more efficient. They were so far more efficient. But during my tenure, it's been a great run, especially working with all the female police officers, and now as safety director I have an opportunity to work with EMS and fire. And I thank you for your service, and most importantly, I thank your families for the support they've provided to you over the years. And the only thing I can say in closing is God bless you, and please stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you once again, Director McGrath. We will now have more remarks from Deputy Chief Joellen O'Neill, Chief Executive Officer from the Cleveland Division of Police.
Good morning. Can everyone hear me? Good. Welcome to the 5th Annual Salute to Women in Public Safety. If you've been paying any attention to the news in the past year, you'll no doubt know that there's been an awakening and raising of awareness of women's issues in the workforce. We've learned at least one thing through these recent events, and that is that there is strength in numbers and strength in unity. We still face challenges, especially in what are considered non-traditional occupations for women, but judging by what I see here, I'm certain that the time is coming soon where there will be no such thing as a non-traditional occupation for women. In our profession, there are times when we can sometimes feel just a little bit by ourselves as we face challenges that are unique to ourselves or to our gender. However, it is events such as these that let us know we are not alone in this. So in that spirit, please take this opportunity to strike up conversations with persons you might not ordinarily do so, develop relationships, strengthen your network of support, and enjoy each other's company today. The civil rights icon Rosa Parks once said, "Knowing what must be done does away with fear." For women trying to make their way in the world, the fear of failure sometimes stands in the way of our success. But looking around this room, I'm extremely optimistic that there's really nothing to fear unless success itself is fearful for you. So let us celebrate and let us look forward to even greater successes. Thank you for being part of Women's History Month.
We will now have more remarks from Lieutenant Thomas McMillan from Tri-C and Noble, and immediately following him, we will have our last remarks from Chief Angelo Cavella from Cleveland Division of Fire.
Good morning. Good morning. To the Reverend Cassandra Bledsoe and this distinguished panel here on the dais, Chief McGrath, Deputy Chief O'Neill, Cheryl Hunt, Chief Cavillo, and Minister Karen Somerville. My friends and colleagues, women in the audience, and all who come out today to celebrate Women's History Month. On behalf of my president, Quentin Jordan, and Vice President Sheila Mason, I bring greetings to you from Noble, the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, the Cleveland chapter. It is a pleasure to be here today. It's an honor to stand before you in this beautiful, historic rotunda to celebrate the 5th annual Salute of Women in Public Safety. I personally want to salute every woman in public safety and thank you for your years of service, your hard work, your dedication, your commitment to your communities, the cities, and the departments you serve. As we come to recognize women in public safety, I think it's very important and essential to fathom and fully understand the flight of a woman and her journey. No one truly understands the roads you had to travel, the bridges you had to cross, and the hills you had to climb to get where you are today. You know, I must admit that I initially was conflicted to say anything because who am I? I'm just a man. But I believe Atticus Finch said it best in To Kill a Mockingbird. He said, "You never really understand a person until you consider the things from his or her point of view, until you get a chance to climb into their skin and walk around in their shoes." I have never walked in your shoes. As a matter of fact, I couldn't, I can't, and I'm not going to try. However, I was provided a very, very vivid, surreal description by my mother. Having to be here today, it actually made me reflect on all the wonderful things that she did, the hard work and grit. she used to raise my sister and I, and made me reminisce of all the sacrifices she made for me. Her dedication and her walk with God, the struggles and challenges she absorbed as a single mother. Lastly, the strength she displayed as she fought every day for sobriety. My mother was not a public safety official, but she was the law in my home. So I'm proud to say, and forever will say, that she is my hero. So as I stare out into this audience today, I see similar silhouettes, faces that reflect my mother. Women who defied odds, transcended barriers, women of courage, strength, boldness, tenacity, fortitude, perseverance, skill, and class. So I salute you today, women in public safety. Noble salutes you. Continue to exhibit unwavering faith, challenge perspectives, inspire creativity, pursue knowledge, and define your craft. Resolve to be the microphone of the voiceless. Bring healing to the hurt, defy stereotypes. And lastly, be the vanguards of public safety. Because public safety certainly needs you. Thank you.
Good morning. I'm Fire Chief Angelo Cavillo. At this time right now, I just want to pay homage and respect to the women of the Cleveland Division of Fire. So if you can please stand up. And any other females here right now today that are in the safety forces, dispatchers, please stand up so you can be acknowledged. Thank you for all you do, truly. Good morning. I'm Chief Angelo Cavillo, Cleveland Division of Fire, and I'm honored to be here to celebrate Women's History Month with the women of public safety. I thank you for all your service, the difference you make for the community, and the inspiration you provide for girls and young women growing up in and around our great city. I want to personally acknowledge 3 members of the Division of Fire in attendance today. Battalion Chief Deborah Schroeder is the first female battalion chief in the history of the Cleveland Division of Fire. Chief Schroeder heads our fire investigation unit. There are more women on the police department than the fire department. But as an arson detective, Battalion Chief Schroeder is one woman who represents both sides. Please stand up, Chief. Thank you. Lieutenant Daphne Tyus. Career has included a variety of positions, including suppression, fire prevention, and fire dispatch. She is currently in charge of our public education unit and oversees our smoke alarm program in conjunction with the American Red Cross. Our region installs the second most smoke alarms in the country, second only to New York City. And Lieutenant Tyus is an important part of that life-saving program. Lieutenant Daphne Tyus, please stand. Lieutenant Justina Saxby spent many years in suppression working at Station 11. And just a side note, all these women I worked with together in suppression, and they were fearless. She worked at Station 11 in Slavic Village neighborhood. Lieutenant Saxby President Simon is in our scheduling office, which is very important for the Division of Fire. She is also a talented photographer and has taken many outstanding pictures of firefighters, expertly capturing the spirit of Cleveland's bravest. And speaking of pictures, it is my pleasure to announce that all three female members of the Cleveland Division of Fire are featured on this year's Candy Bar. Truly, a sweet honor and well-deserved. Congratulations, all three of you. Please stand. Thanks again to all the women of public safety. God bless you and stay safe.
If we could have all three come forward, and Director McGrath and Chief go down so we can present them with their awards, and we'll be passing out the candy bars. Yes, here they are. All right, thank you for your patience. We will be passing out the candy bars, and the moment that you'll be waiting for, we're going to break for a couple of minutes as we begin to pass out your salads for brunch. You may all rest for about 5 to 10 minutes. We're going to go back into our roundtable presentations, but many of you do not know this young man who is standing next to me, and I know you're wondering who he is. This is his first time with us. He is the new assistant special agent in charge of the FBI. He is ASAC, Alvin Winston. So I'm going to allow him to say a few remarks, and then we're going to move into our roundtable presentations.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Again, Alvin Winston here. Definitely a pleasure of mine to be here. I tell you, when I actually saw the flyer, is everybody hear me back there? Yeah. Once I saw the flyer, I was very excited to come and take part in this. Not to mention that I have a cousin who is actually going to be provided with an award today, so I'm very excited to be here to do that. But in any event, if there's ever any needs that you guys have, any resources that you need here from FBI Cleveland, don't hesitate to give us a call. Thank you.
Can I have Deputy Chief Dennis Hill from the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, Commander Deidre Jones, Cleveland Division of Police. She told me her name. The young lady from the Rape Crisis Center. I just met her. And Barb Pachano, Manager of Healing Services for Spiritual Care from Cleveland Clinic. Please come forward. We're going to begin our roundtable presentations. Will our table hosts please raise your hands? Our first topic will be the importance of youth community engagement with public service officials. I'm going to have Deputy Chief Dennis Hill come forward and speak to you, and then he will speak for just a short time, and then we will take the conversations to the table where our table hosts will guide those conversations. Deputy Chief Hill.
Thank you. Good morning. It is truly an honor and a privilege to be here this morning as I look at all of my colleagues and friends in the room. As a member of the Cleveland Division of Police, I served for 29 years and retired as a district commander, so I understand the importance of engaging our youth. And then take that opportunity over to the Cleveland Metropolitan School District, where I have the privilege of providing service for 40,000 of our scholars. So when we speak to our staff, we talk about the importance of establishing relationships with our scholars, with instilling trust and opening lines of communication. So we have events surrounding literacy. We're going to kick off this summer with a safety town for our Cleveland Metropolitan School District youth as an opportunity, again, to see police officers and safety officials not as the long arm of the law per se, but the mentor, the coach, the father, the friend. We have with us today members of our staff who are in our buildings, our gang intervention specialists, our mobile deputies, and all of our people who interact with our scholars every day. Once you've established a relationship with young people will come to you in a time of need, and they'll tell you what their needs are. They'll tell you how we can better serve them. They'll tell you about the things that trouble them. They'll tell you about the things that inspire them, and then we in turn can help them to reach their goals. So we've always had a relationship with our young people. We're building upon that to strengthen it and further it. One of the interesting comments I'd like to make real quick, we're interviewing a young man for a police officer position, and he's a proud graduate of Cleveland Metropolitan School District. And as I sat him at the interview table, I asked him who were the influences in his life. And he had the opportunity to tell me about a sergeant who works for us, who was his building officer at Glenville High School when he graduated. And because of the connection that he had with that sergeant, it inspired in this young man an opportunity and a desire to enter into law enforcement. So 4 or 5 years after graduating high school, he's now going to be employed as a police officer for us. So that's a success story. I want to talk about how we sow seeds early into their lives, and then down the road, they pay a dividend and a harvest. So that's my 5 minutes there, but I wanted to let you guys know that we care about the residents, we care about our young people, and we're here to serve.
Good morning. Can everybody hear me? Okay. I'm supposed to talk to you for a quick minute about the importance of education or educating yourself while you work for public safety. And I tried to figure out some things to say, and the only thing I figured the best thing to do was to talk about my own personal experience. So people ask me, how did I get where I am? Because in all honesty, when I got on this job, I never wanted to be a supervisor. I enjoy working basic patrol. I enjoy working as an undercover prostitute in the vice unit. And then I found a passion in domestic violence. So I got on the domestic violence unit, and because of that passion, I decided I wanted to teach domestic violence in the police academy. But in order for me to do that, I had to become proficient in what it was that I wanted to teach. So I went to several trainings, and not only did I get my state certification to teach, I also got a federally certified instructor trainer certification through the Department of Homeland Security. So that means I can actually teach domestic violence to instructors all over this country. My newfound thirst for knowledge actually motivated me to go back to school and get my bachelor's degree in human services management. When I was in a domestic violence unit, I got promoted as a sergeant and went back to the domestic violence unit. But with everything that was going on after 2012, and we know what that was about, and the changes that were being brought about by the department, I decided that I wanted to be a part of that change. But in order to do that, I had to make myself more marketable. So what I did was I went back to school and obtained my Master of Public Administration through Villanova University. Now, I was working in the homicide unit at the same time as a supervisor. And you can imagine how difficult that was to get a 3 a.m. call-up while you had a paper due in statistics. So after I cried through that last semester and finally graduated, I got my master's in public administration, which absolutely did make me more marketable. And what I'm suggesting to you is not that you have to go back to school like I did, but what you can do in your profession in order to get where you want to go, if you really want to go there, is you find the trainings, you look for the trainings, you go to those trainings, you reach out to those people who came before you, because the goal of the people before you is to bring you up. So you look for those and you find those and you do those. I guarantee you will be more marketable in public safety. I was the first female to ever supervise a homicide unit in the history of this division. And while I don't mean to toot my own horn, beep beep, people ask me again how I got where I am, and I use 4 very simple words. It is because I wanted it. You can be anything you want to be, go anywhere you want to go, and don't let anybody, any man, any other female, tell you you can't do it. It's within your grasp. Thank you.
To hijack the program here, but we have some special guests. You can see here we have Miss Carolyn Williams at the Noble Conference along with Chief Williams. So you guys can say hey. Can we get a big Noble 2020? And they have some things to say. I'm going to put you guys by the microphone, so you're on.
So we just wanted to say hello, and I wanted the people here, the ladies here, to introduce themselves to you. So you all know who I am. I'm Carolyn Williams, past president of the chapter and co-chair for the Noble 2020 conference.
Good afternoon, ladies. Hello out there. I'm Michelle Teje. I serve as the Noble National Associate Member Representative, which means police officers, detectives up to the rank of sergeant, and on the federal level from GS5 up to GS12. Hello, everyone. And I am a New York City police detective, first grade.
Hello, my name is Vera Bumpers. I am Chief in Houston Metro Police Department. I am the first National Vice President, and welcome. Look forward to seeing you in 2020.
Hello, ladies. I am the second vice president for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives. I am the chief of police in the city of Durham. CJ Davis, look forward to seeing you in 2020.
Hi, I'm Brenda Bond Andrews, Region 4 Vice President. Looking forward to the 2020 conference in Region 4. I'm a retired Detroit Police Deputy Chief of Police. Great conference. We have a late
Say who you are.
I'm Linda Williams, Federal Assistant to the National President, Retired Civil Service. I worked for the United States Secret Service for 30 years, currently professor of criminal justice at Middleton State.
Hello, I am Renee Hall. I am Special Assistant to the President for the National Organization of Black Law Enforcement Executives, and I am the Chief of Police in Dallas, Texas. Hi, my name is Marita Bryan. I'm the Assistant Superintendent with Allegheny County Police Department in Pittsburgh. I am the Region 2 Vice President, and I am looking forward to coming to Cleveland in 2020. Hi, I'm Joe Brenda Williams, Detective First Grade, New York City NYPD. I'm on the New York chapter of Noble in New York as a volunteering, and I'm looking forward to Cleveland 2020.
All right. Hey, Cleveland, Carolyn Lewis, Captain, New York City Department of Correction, 28 years. I'm on Noble Board of Directors, New York City, Region 1. Hope to see you soon.
Hi, I'm Will May Leach, Chief of Staff of Noble National Office, and see you in 2020. I'm Heidi Ashley. I'm the new Director of Chapter of Member Services, and I'll be working with you all hopefully in 2020, and I look forward to coming to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. All right.
So it sounds like what I could hear, everyone said they're looking forward to seeing us in 2020. I think it was the women that put us over the top. All right. Our next subject, and I know that we didn't get the chance to discuss the importance of education and training, but we're going to move to Time's Up, and we're going to have Shelley from the Cleveland Rape Crisis Center come in and brief us right quick.
Good morning, or is it afternoon yet? Sexual violence has elevated to the national conversation in ways that we have never seen before. The #MeToo movement empowered countless of survivors of sexual harassment and abuse to speak their truth and share their experiences, even if perhaps they had never dared to do before. In many ways, the #MeToo movement created a window for the world to see what it is like to be a rape crisis advocate. Many people were exposed for the first time to the prevalence of sexual violence in our society. Research shows that 1 in 5 women and 1 in 71 men will be raped in their lifetime. #MeToo puts names and faces to those statistics. Countless others contemplated for the first time that a rape culture makes it easier for offenders to escape accountability than for victims to be believed and assisted in their healing process. At Cleveland Rape Crisis Center, we have supported an unprecedented number of survivors reaching out to us for help. Our 24-hour hotline averaged about 22 contacts per day in the fourth quarter of 2017, compared to 18 calls per day in the first 3 quarters of the year. And in 2016, we had 13 calls per day, and just 5 years ago, only 8 calls per day. Some survivors report that this national attention normalizes their experiences and help them feel more comfortable disclosing their sexual assault, seeking treatment, and accessing help. However, other survivors share that this type of news coverage is triggering and exacerbates pre-existing trauma symptoms. While we are reminded that even today many survivors are still suffering in silence, we are hopeful that the national conversation is propelling the anti-sexual violence movement in the hashtag Time's Up to a new level where it gets the attention and resources it deserves. We see signs that we are moving away from a culture that ignores and enables sexual victimization toward a culture in which perpetrators are held accountable for their actions and survivors are believed and supported. Thank you.
And thank you so very much for your attention to a critical topic. I want to thank, and then we're going to bring them when we're done, but just so you can see, this is just a pilot. We're going to be announcing next year that we're going to leave City Hall, we've outgrown City Hall Rotunda, and we're going to a larger space where we'll have the opportunity to break out into educational sessions. So I just want to thank all of you for down throughout the years, for the past 5 years, who have supported us. We started very small. We started in this hall, and we have grown, but we have outgrown the Rotunda, and I do believe that just with the past 2 years of dealing with our table hosts and seeing how much the positive feedback that we've got, that we can grow into actually having long education and training sessions where we'll be able to dialogue at a much deeper level. Thank you so much. I bring forth work, health, and well-being, and we will have Barb. She's the manager of Healing Services Center for Spiritual Care at Cleveland Clinic.
I would say good afternoon. I think we're afternoon now. Can you hear me? A little more? This is like going to the principal's office, right? Okay. So my name is Barb Pichetto. I'm a manager of Healing Services and Code Lavender programs through the Center for Spiritual Care at the Cleveland Clinic. I'm a holistic nurse. I've been a nurse there for 23 years. So you can imagine how honored I am to be in a room with you. I can tell you that from my point of view, not one healthcare worker has ever not needed you in one way or another. And I thank you very deeply for being there, from our officers from the Cleveland Clinic who are here, to the folks who we drive through your neighborhoods, who help us and protect us on the way to work, on the way home, and also on those incidences, because as a freeway driver, I've seen many, many incidences on the way to work or on the way home, not to mention in my community. What I'd like to talk to you today about is balance. We've come to this section of the talk where actually the last two speakers have talked about things that could be very traumatic for people. One, work, school, balance can be very difficult when you're looking to further your education, and the other, the triggers that we might have from things that happen in our communities or on television or on the news, such as the triggers we might have with sexual abuse, other abuse. It can bring up massive amounts of grief and vicarious trauma. And what I mean by vicarious trauma is, what we take away with us from our feelings, our heart, our soul, when something dramatic happens in front of us, which happens to you on a daily basis. One of the things I was thinking about over the last few days was how, coming from a nursing standpoint, up until the 20th century, nursing was primarily female. Just in the last 10 or so years, we've gotten up to about 25% male nurses in the healthcare setting. And I could be a little bit off. That's kind of a gradual thing, I guess. What I was looking up and about females in public safety was the progression of percentage of women in safety. And it's very impressive. We want you to be successful, and From my standpoint, I want to tell you that you are all leaders and you are all pioneers, even though it's been 100 years. I think that with the way things are going, we have to reinvent it every 10 years or so. Our lives are different every generation. And the work-life balance piece of it can be very, very daunting. As women, we're looked upon in many different roles. And depending on how you were raised, what your life was like before you got to today, it will mold the way that you see yourself as a success or a failure. One of the things that we talk a lot about with mind, body, spirit, and emotion, medicine, health, and nursing, is that you hear those words, well, you need work-life balance. How many people in the room right now, with a raise of hands, feel like they have work-life balance? Just a few. That's what I expected. And so I don't know how you feel, but I can assume that you might feel like it's a continuous task. I must work on this, or I need to get to the gym, or I need to get to that thing or that place or that class. But the thing I'm here to tell you, to kind of change and reframe the way you look at it, is that imbalance is truly the new balance. We all have imbalance in work life, school, work, our kids, our other activities that we might want to do, and then add to that all of the other things happening in the world that interject themselves into our lives. They might change the way we do our work, they might change the way we live at home, they might change our safety in general of how we function on a day-to-day basis, such as our community in Texas over the last week. They changed everything they did until they came to a solution. So what I want to impose upon you is to feel that you are framing your life of work-life balance, health balance. If you are doing something towards your goals, you are doing it. If you are trying to make a decision to do it, you're not doing it yet. Does that make sense? So that's kind of the message I wanted to give you, is that a lot of us feel like a failure because we haven't gotten or achieved that perfect work-life balance or mind, body, spirit things that we want to do. I implore you to look at yourself as success and then make space for those things as you move through your time, either your week, your month, your year, and blend them into your life as best as you can. Because without you being able to be satisfied, healthy, or balanced in your thought process, you will not be able to do the job that you face every day. So I'm going to give you a handout after I'm done to explain what I would like you to do. But there is a Dr. Joe Vitale, who's not a Cleveland Clinic person, but he's out there in the world as an author. And he has this little exercise that he does with folks as a healing exercise. And it's just 4 things that you say to yourself or to someone else to help you to heal or to get through things. So a lot of times I do this in a big group and I have you all stand up and do all these things, but in this environment I think the best way to do it would be to start with some breathing technique, and then I'm going to walk you through it. So if you could just kind of sit in your chair with your feet flat on the floor. And we're going to start with something called the 9-breath centering exercise. So this is a way to just kind of become present. So you can put it on your phone, kind of stop what you're doing, and close your eyes if you'd like to, and just take a few slow, deep breaths for me, however you like. And what I'm going to have you do is we're going to do 3 breaths 3 times. And we're going to start now. So starting with 3 deep breaths, I'd like you to just clear your mind of anything that happened before you arrived here today. Just let those things float out and extend themselves beyond what your thinking process is right now. And for the next 3 breaths, when you start them, you're going to let go of any thoughts you have about what you might be doing when you leave. So any plans that you have, any duties that you have to attend to, just let them leave your mind temporarily. And for the last 3 breaths, I want you to focus on your heart or your core, abdomen, solar plexus, somewhere deep inside, just to bring yourself to a nice presence of being inside of yourself right now with no thoughts that are pushing you forward or backwards. And when you're finished, just go ahead and stand up, because we're going to do something else. The reason I have you stand up is because they always have me speak after lunch. Just kidding. No one laughs. So for this last part, what I want you to do is just close your eyes and imagine you're looking into the mirror. So you're picturing yourself, and it can be yourself right now. And just repeat after me, looking at yourself. I love you. Thank you. I'm sorry. Forgive me. And then open your eyes. These are the 4 things that you can say to yourself that will help you move through each situation in your life to bring more balance or close to balance. It is also the 4 things that you can say to each other, to a loved one, or to someone that maybe isn't even here anymore that you'd like to say those words to. They can bring closure, they can bring exploration. And if you have a problem or you're having a challenge, saying them to yourself, that would be my first inclination to ask someone for some guidance on better thought balance. Because in the work that you do and the supportive work that you do with others, those are things that are fairly necessary for you to be able to build trust, community, and relationships beyond yourself, but also bring balance to yourself. Thank you very much.
All right, let's take a deep breath. Weren't our table hosts beautiful? If I could have all of our table hosts come up front for a moment, please. Lieutenant Dorothy Todd, Sergeant Belinda Kyle, Sylvia Grimes, Detective April Allant, Lieutenant Kiana Better, Corporal Essie Nunley Ivory, Lieutenant Carol Rucker, Suzanne Debowski, and Rhonda Brisky. Please come up. Come on up. Our first couple years, ladies, when our budget was smaller, we had the mighty men of valor. They would give us all roses and that beautiful candy bar. And I'm going to ask all of our men to come up and join these women. Chief Gonzalez, Commander Wright, Chief, Deputy Chief, Chief, ASAC. Those were the good days. We got escorted down the aisle, and Chief Williams said, looks like we were at a wedding when we took our photos with this man walking us down the aisle with our flowers. I am going to call a name, and I'm going to ask that Chief Gonzalez If you could come over and help pass out the plaques to each woman. And where is our photographer? We're going to take pictures, but we could all get in a line. And let's just give them all a standing ovation. We're going to do them one at a time. When I call your name, we're going to take a photo one at a time, but we want all of the men to help pass out the plaques. So on this side, gentlemen. They're going to take a picture. If you have the chief of your department here, you're going to take your photo with that person. Claire. Lieutenant Carol Rucker, Cuyahoga Metropolitan Housing Authority. Rhonda Brisky, Greater Cleveland Regional Transit Authority. And I believe her cousin is here. Her cousin wanted to present it to her. Suzanne Dabowski, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives. Yes. Lieutenant Kiana Better, Federal Reserve Bank. Corporal Essie Ivory, Cleveland Clinic Police. Detective April Allant, Woodmere Police Department. All right. Well, now we get to change this up a little bit. Before I go any further, I'm going to ask Commander Jones to come forward. Are there any more command staff from Cleveland Division of Police? Okay. Come on. You get to, Commander. You're the highest ranking. Sylvia Grimes, Cleveland Division of Police. Sergeant Belinda Kyle, Cleveland Division of Police. And last but not least, Lieutenant Dorothy Todd, Cleveland Division of Police. Yes. Gentlemen, can I have you up front? Can you do me a favor, gentlemen? Each, can you go to a table and get a centerpiece and flowers and bring it back, one back? They're still in the flower giving business. When we went back and forth with our national theme versus our local theme, we decided to go with She Believed She Could, So She Did. But the national theme is Nevertheless, She Persisted. And I thought about the women in public safety. Nevertheless, they persisted, and they are extremely persistent. Is Latasha Van Zant present? Yes, she is. Edna Orozco, the Chief's Office. Latasha is the administrative assistant for Michael McGrath, and Edna is the executive administrative assistant for the Office of Police Chief. And just a moment of history, Edna has been here through 9 police chiefs. So let's give those 2 women a round of applause. I am a staff of 1, but I had phenomenal committee help. And so with that, the one person that I would go to each and every time that would help me make the decision is Officer Nancy Dominic. If you could come forward. And get your flower. For the very first time, I got an email, and they were hoping that our registration was not full. So I am going to ask one of the dispatchers from Chagrin Valley to come forward to get flowers. Is anyone here? Thank you for joining us for the first time. They say behind every good man is a greater woman, and I'm not sure if this woman stands behind the man or she's with the man or in front of the man. But is Loretta Wims, the wife of Chief Wims, available here today? Please come forward. To the woman who takes us all live, you see her daily on the news, Jennifer Chach, our PIO. Thank you so very much for Facebooking us live. To our speakers, Commander Jones, Shelley, and Barb, please come forward. I know. We can do nothing without prayer. Sister Somerville, please come forward. And to the two women who are here who were with me for our very first Salute to Women in Public Safety, Deaconess Mary Davis and Deaconess Patricia Patterson, please come forward. There are more flowers on the back table. Please bring them forward. Thank you very much. And there should be 3 left on the back table. Are there 3 left? 3? Okay, I'll get them. I have the pleasure of working in the office of the police chief. And while I do not get the opportunity to do the grueling work of investigations and getting called up commander at 2, 3, 4 in the morning anymore, I do have the opportunity to work with some fabulous men and women who are still doing investigations and who are still being called up to deal with some very heavy cases. And so I'm going to bring forth Sergeant Jennifer Chach, who has a special award to present this day, our Community Service Award. Just a few more awards, gentlemen.
Thank you, Cassandra. So good afternoon. I'd like to start by thanking Cassandra again for putting on this event. She really does a great job. We really appreciate that each year she takes the time to respect the accomplishments of women in public safety. For those of you who don't know me, well, you probably got to know me a little bit today with the FaceTime video. I'm Sergeant Jen Chach, and I run public affairs for the Cleveland Division of Police. In other words, I do media relations for the police department. And although this does include some on-camera appearances, moreover, it's about media relations, building and maintaining professional relationships with our local media. So we wanted to take things a step further and kind of include our community in these awards because it's very important to understand that policing is a partnership and we all do work together every day. Today I'm going to highlight a case that brought together law enforcement, science, and the media. Bear with me because this story is sad, but I promise you that there are positives and there are always prayers. This past summer, our officers were called to a scene where a person's remains were found behind an abandoned building inside of a trash bag. As per protocol, the remains were taken to the Cuyahoga County Medical Examiner's office for examination, and sadly, what was inside of the bag turned out to be the fully intact skeleton of a 4-year-old boy. Now, you have to understand that at this point, the investigators were fairly stunned. Missing children cases are always high profile, and we had no cases in Northeast Ohio that matched this child. Fortunately, this case was assigned to lead detective Kathleen Carlin, a seasoned homicide detective and the longest-serving female detective in our homicide unit. I wish she was here, but Detective Carlin is not today because she's out of state. But I will tell you that her work is solid, putting this case in good hands. It was Detective Carlin who began the push for media and public outreach. Months went by, and in that time, the medical examiner called upon Dr. Linda Spurlock, a forensic anthropologist and professor at Kent State University. Dr. Spurlock was tasked with creating a reconstructive sketch of the boy in order to assist with identification, and you can see her work here. I know Dr. Spurlock's work, and we were confident that she'd drawn the child as he appeared in life. The medical examiner's office organized a joint news conference in which Dr. Thomas Gilson and Chief Calvin D. Williams explained the circumstances and urged the public to call investigators with any leads. Days turned into months, and the boy remained unidentified. Without new information, it is difficult to keep cases in the news cycle. In today's climate, news changes by the hour, by the moment. Keeping the sketch on the front page, so to speak, was difficult. We began to wonder if he was a local case at all, or perhaps this originated someplace else, but where? Now enter the role of our local media. I contacted 2 reporters who I work with on a regular basis, Peggy Gallick from Fox 8 and Homa Bash from News 5, both here in Cleveland. Both reporters agreed to do larger feature pieces, including the sketch, to help us get the boy identified. This proved to be the vital piece in cracking this code. Very shortly after the stories ran, an important tip came in. The child's mother, who was incarcerated, recognized the sketch on TV. The boy was later identified through DNA analysis. I won't get into specifics of this case further because it does remain under investigation. In today's climate, it's easy to get lost in the narrative that the media and law enforcement are somehow on different pages. In our world today, there's a lot going on, and it can become easy to focus on the negative, but I would urge you all not to do that. For many of us, it is difficult to see any positive at all in this case because it's so terribly sad. We just can't see how it could happen at all. But although an extreme injustice was committed against this child, there was undoubtedly an intervening here which placed the right investigators, the right scientists, and the right reporters on the path to help with a very important piece. The point here is that through a cooperative effort, 4-year-old Eleazar Ruiz was identified, and this angel, who surely already had his wings, now has his name back. Therefore, I would like to present the following Community Service Awards to Detective Kathleen Carlin, Dr. Linda Spurlock, Peggy Gallick, and Homa Bash. Ladies, thank you for your hard work and commitment to our community.
Peggy Gallick. Dr. Spurlock. And Homa Bash. Thank you very much, Sergeant Sharp. And is someone from the homicide unit that could come forward to accept the award on behalf of Detective Carlin? Once again. Thank you. Gentlemen, you may be seated. You may be seated, gentlemen. Thank you. Now we've come to the end of our program. We have a very special announcement in our closing prayer by Minister Elizabeth Roman. She is the Assistant Administrator to the Interim Director of the Community Relations Board. Before she comes, I'd like to just give us some special thank yous. I want to thank very much in the back of the room Jeffrey and Peaches Letwich from McDonald's. Thank you so very much for our salads. This is their second year with us. I also would like to thank Mayor Frank G. Jackson, Newell Rubbermaid, Goody, of all of you who got your goodies in that white bag, Michael Setta Trophy, Seglin's Floors, TV20, and the Cleveland Division of Printing. Minister Roman, will you lead us in prayer and your special announcement?
Good afternoon. My name is Elizabeth Roman. I am the Assistant Administrator to the Director of Community Relations, Grady Stevenson. And today I'm going to be wearing two hats. As his assistant, on behalf of Grady Stevenson, we salute all of the women in public safety. Thank you for your dedication and all that you do to keep us safe. It is an honor to present the nominee from, she's from Public Safety, your division, from the Motorcycle Unit of the Cleveland Police Division is Stephanie Murphy, and she will be recognized at our big event next week over at the Water Department. Unfortunately, she couldn't be here today, but let's give her a round of applause. First female sergeant of the Motorcycle Unit. At this time, I'm going to ask that we just bow our heads. Lord, whom have we in heaven but you, our provider, our protector, our Savior? With grateful hearts, we come before you to thank you, if for nothing else, the gifts of life and the lives of the women from public safety here today and those they represent that could not be here. Pour a spirit of renewal, refreshing, and revival over them. Bless their coming in and going out. As they face the perils of life on our behalf, with little regard to their own life, let your angels camp around them. Depart not your face nor your spirit from them. Blanket them with your peace. Keep them in the palm of your hand, from which they cannot be removed. We honor those to whom honor is due, but we give you the praise and the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
We have come to the end of our program, and always we will gather on the front stairs of City Hall to take our one group picture. Thank you very much.